So this is the regular council meeting of Monday, March 28, 2021. Thank you to everyone for joining us. The first item is adoption of, the webinar will be recorded, just as a reminder. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes is the first item on the agenda. Special Governance and Operations Committee meeting of February 18, 2021. Governance and Operations Committee meeting of February 22nd, 2021. And the regular council meeting of February 22nd, 2021. The recommendation is before you to adopt all three sets of minutes as circulated. Do I have someone to make that recommendation? Councillor Santori, do I have someone to second?
I will.
Councillor Gattafoni Robinson, thank you. Does anyone see any errors or omissions in the meeting minutes?
No.
Hearing nothing, we'll go for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Against, if any? Carried. Thank you. Public question period. I do not see anyone on the line. Ms. McIsaac, do we have any questions that have been sent in advance?
No, we don't.
None? Great. Thank you very much. We'll move on. So under number 3, let's tackle 3.1, Building Bylaw Contravention 142 Rosslyn Avenue. Ms. McIsaac, I'll pass the floor to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council will be dealing or asked to deal with the building bylaw contravention at 6 properties tonight. So I'm just hoping to speak generally about the process first, and then I'll introduce each individually and give a very brief summary about the individual aspects of the building contravention. But generally speaking, if any property owner is undertaking structural repairs or alterations or new build on their properties, they are required to obtain a building permit. We do contract out our building inspection to the Regional District of Kootenay Boundary, but within our building bylaw, there is the requirement for permits to be obtained and inspections to be called at certain points through construction. In the 6 cases at hand tonight, either construction was undertaken without a building permit, and then in follow-up from the regional district, we have not been able to obtain that property owner's compliance with the requirements, or they did have a building permit but didn't call for inspections as is required. So there are building bylaw contravention, and in some circumstances also zoning bylaw contraventions that are important for us to acknowledge and make public. So in this case, what we do, you have 2 options available to you. You could do one or the other of 2 actions or both. You can direct staff to register a notice on title of the properties. And what this does is alerts future property owners or prospective purchasers that construction was undertaken without permits or without inspections, so that they would be wary and do their due diligence to see if in fact that construction meets with building codes. So it really is an important alert to future owners of the property that things were not done in accordance with our statutory requirements and our bylaw requirements. Council can also consider, depending on the circumstances, you can consider issuing an order pursuant to Section 73 of the Community Charter. And that would give the city authority, if, depending what the order would be, if you're wanting to have, say, an alteration removed or an addition removed to structure. If it's, say, impeding on another property, it's crossed over the property line, you may want to seek the removal of that construction. And in that case, you would utilize the community charter remedial action order requirement, so that if the property owner within a certain timeline didn't undertake to do a repair or fix the issue that was wrong, the city would be positioned to do that at the property owner's cost. So that's an option for you. But what we do traditionally is in all of these instances, we want to have the notice on title registered. And in some cases, that is enough. It's enough just to alert future owners, or it may even compel the property owner to undertake whatever work they need to do, whether it's to obtain the building permit or to have the inspections completed. So that's speaking generally to process. Are there any questions around that before I talk to each one individually?
Any questions from the floor on process? Seeing none, go ahead, Ms. McIsaac. So we'll move to 3.1.
Yes, so with respect to 142 Roslyn Avenue, there's a building bylaw contravention in that the property owners undertook alterations to the principal dwelling on the property without calling for the completion of inspections, as is required by the building bylaw. You'll see in the reporting, the Regional District Building Department does reach out to the property owners a number of times. Typically 3 registered letters are sent. And in this case, we have not obtained the property owner's compliance. It is being recommended that staff be directed to file a notice in the Land Title Office on the title of the property. The legal description is Lot 3, District Lot 1073 of Plan NEP 83322, pertaining to this contravention of the City of Trail Building Bylaw number 2548.
So moved.
Okay, Councillor Kashoni, do I have someone to second? Councillor Butler, thank you. Any questions on this one?
No.
Okay, move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against, if any? Carried. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is 3.2, which is a building bylaw contravention for 725 Hendry Street. Ms. McIsaac, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. At 725 Hendry Street, the property owners undertook alterations to the accessory building on the property. So that's either the garage or carport, without completion of all the inspections that are required by the City of Trails building bylaw. The requisite communications from the Regional District's Building Department were sent to the property owners, and we failed to meet with compliance there. And so it is being recommended that staff be directed to file a notice in the Land Title Office on the title of the property legally described as Lot 3, District Lot 6065, Plan 1294, pertaining to the contravention of the City of Trail building bylaw.
Okay, so I'm
So
going to
move.
Councillor Gattafoni Robinson, someone to second?
Second it.
Councillor Santori, thank you. Any questions on this item on the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, if any? Carried. The next item is 3.3, Building Bylaw Contravention 3866 Carnation Drive. Ms. McIsaac?
Thank you. At 3866 Carnation Drive, the property owners constructed an accessory building on the property that exceeds the height restriction in the city's zoning bylaw, and it did not pass final inspection as is required by the City of Trails building bylaw. The property owner had indicated that they were going to reduce the height of the structure and call off for final inspection, but that has not been done after repeat communications from the Regional District's Building Department. It is therefore being recommended that staff be directed to file a notice in the Land Title Office on the title of the property legally described as the amended Lot 2 of Block F, District Lot 4598, Plan 5725, pertaining to the contravention of the City of Trail building bylaw.
Just a question.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah, thank you. There's a couple in here with respect to height restrictions or exceeding the height limits, Michelle. If the building in fact is built according to building code, are they given the option then to go to the Board of Variance? And I know it's easier to ask for permission than it is forgiveness, but if it meets the construction criteria, can they apply for a variance after the fact?
In the case of construction that's already been completed without a permit, we
Right,
would route it through the development variance permit process that council adjudicates.
right.
And that opportunity would be available to them, but they haven't reached out to the city for any relief from the zoning bylaws height
We
restriction.
give them that option in writing when we put it on, when we when we give them notice that it's going on title, do we give them that option or do they have to figure it out on their own?
I could include it in the correspondence, but I
Well,
wouldn't
if it's not
know.
standard procedure, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I can certainly include it. It is a bit unusual that there is a known contravention of the zoning bylaw. Because most typically, if a building, there was a building permit applied for in this case, they just either didn't plan accordingly or added some additional height after getting underway. So it's a bit unusual that the height restriction or the zoning bylaw contravention is a part of it. So by all means, I can include it.
Well, actually, I'd rather you didn't now that I'm giving it second thought, because I think it would set a dangerous precedence in terms of just do what you want and then come and ask for forgiveness later. If they want to go down that road, they should inquire about it. I mean, I'm telling them about it now via Zoom, but I would rather you didn't now that I think about it more, Michelle.
And the building inspectors do let property owners know
Okay.
what is available to them.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, on this motion, we need someone to move and second. So do I have someone to move? Counselor Santori, someone to second, Counselor Butler. Any questions on this one? Is your hand up, Counselor Dobie?
Yes, thanks, Mayor Payson. Ms. McIsaac, once we do this notice, how long would we allow that building to stay like that if they don't do anything about it?
So each circumstance is different. In some cases, construction could remain like that forevermore. As long as the future property owners are alerted to the fact that there was a contravention, then the city's responsibilities no longer exist. So in this case, it is over height. It's a minor encroach or a minor variance that would be needed. We're not aware of any serious building code deficiencies, so we may not advance this matter any further. What we hope is through the registration of the notice on title, the property owner will take steps. But each case is a little bit different. If there's ever thought to be any life safety or serious building code deficiencies, then we would look at the community charter order.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, if any? Carried, thank you. Item number 3.4, building bylaw contravention, 3461 Laburnum Drive.
Yes, thank you. At 3461 Laburnum Drive, the property owners undertook alterations to the principal dwelling on the property without the completion of all inspections as is required. In this case, some of the construction did pass inspection, but there was an addition that the regional district's building department required more information on, and the information was not forthcoming from the property owners. So with that, it is being recommended that staff be directed to file a notice in the land title office on the title of the property legally described as that part of lot 3, district lot 4598, Plan 1921, lying east of a line that bisects the northerly and southerly boundaries thereof, pertaining to the contravention of the City of Trail building bylaw.
Okay, do I have someone to make that motion?
So move.
Counselor Gattafoni Robinson, do I have someone to second?
Seconder.
Counselor Jones, thank you. Any questions on this matter? None, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, if any? Carried. Thank you. Building bylaw contravention 270 Coleman Street in Trail. Ms. McIsaac?
Yes, thank you. The property owners of 270 Coleman Street constructed an accessory structure without the benefit of a building permit, as is required by our building bylaw. There was photos included in the reporting of this structure. I'll call it a patio roof, a roof of some sort that was attached to some fencing. We would recommend in this case that the notice on title be registered. This is one particular property, though, in follow-up with the Regional District Building Department that we may bring back to you, because if that particular roof structure doesn't meet snow load requirements, or the construction of it doesn't meet the snow loading requirements, there could be some potential harm to persons or property underneath that. So at this time, we're just recommending the notice on title, but we will follow up with the Regional District Building Department to determine if it may be advisable to go farther, failing the property owner's compliance. So it is being recommended that staff be directed to file a notice in the Land Title Office on the title of the property legally described as Lots 7 and 8, Block 17, District Lot 1073, Plan 1645, pertaining to the contravention of the City of Trail building bylaw.
Very good. Do I have someone to make that motion? Councillor Santori, Councillor Butler second. Does anyone have any questions on this one? No, all in favor?
Aye.
If any? Carried. Thank you. Item 3.6, building bylaw contravention 8288 Highway 3B. Ms. McIsaac?
Yes, and this is the last of the building bylaw contraventions for today's meeting. The property owner of 8288 Highway 3B constructed a retaining wall on the property without the benefit of the building permit, as is required by our building bylaw. The Regional District Building Department has been in touch with the owner describing the requirements to obtain the permit. And when it comes to a retaining wall, the engineering that is required to be submitted with it. We have not received the property owner's compliance. And so at this time, it is being recommended that staff be directed to file a notice in the Land Title Office on the title of the property legally described as Lot 5, Township 7A, Plan 2901, except Plan 12098, pertaining to the contravention of the City of Trail building bylaw.
Okay, anyone wishing to move this? Councillor Butler, anyone seconding? Councillor Jones, thank you. Any questions on this matter? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, if any? Carried. Thank you. The next item is 3.7, unsightly premises, 2163 Daniel Street. Ms. McIsaac, I'll pass it over to you again.
Thank you. Reporting has been prepared for council's consideration with respect to the condition of the property at 2163 Daniel Street. The city's unsightly premise bylaw does require property owners to maintain their properties to a certain standard. And the property located at 2163 Daniel Street has a considerable accumulation of discarded materials all around the dwelling. We don't typically action unsightly premises in the winter months because removal of discarded materials is difficult for the property owner to undertake. But in this case, it was felt warranted. The photos attached to the reporting will demonstrate just how much garbage and waste there is there. And it has been building considerably since we've been in touch with the owner and occupant requesting the removal. This is a property that council has dealt with before, and so it is being recommended that you issue an order under the unsightly premises bylaw for the cleanup of the property and give the owner 14 days rather than the more traditional 30 days to have the work done. Otherwise, the city would then be prepared and in a position to have the work done at the property owner's cost.
So moved.
Counselor Santori, did you second that, Counselor Kashoni? Thank you.
That's
Any
disgusting.
Any questions on this one? Counselor
Yes.
Joby?
Mayor Payson, yes, Ms. McIsaac, I recognize that this was a repeater, and I just wonder when they had been in contravention before, did the city end up having to clean up or did they do it?
I would have to, we deal with so many properties, I would have to check back. I can't answer that
That's okay. Yeah.
most specifically, but
Okay, any other questions on this? Counselor Butler, and you're on mute.
Just a typing error by the looks of it on page 89. The provincial health order dated December 4th, 2021. Should that read 2020?
I don't have the
Page 80.
same page numbering as you because I'm in the
Right.
agenda
I-
module. So
I
is
just believe
it
that it
on
should
the,
probably be dated last year's date.
oh, okay, thank you. Is that within the recommendation and resolution?
No, a letter to the owners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
We will look to correct that. Thank you.
thank you.
Oh, yes. Great, thanks for that. Okay, so any other questions on this matter? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, if any? Carried. So 3.8 is proclamation request for World Championship Teams Day, and I'm going to read out the proclamation. The proclamation is, whereas the Trail Smoke Eaters, proudly representing the City of Trail in Canada, won the World Hockey Championship tournaments on February 12, 1939 and March 12, 1961 in Europe respectively. And whereas, as a result of these historic tours, the Trail Smoke Eaters' legacy is renowned worldwide and continues to garner enthusiasm and admiration. And whereas the City of Trail is synonymous with hockey, due in large part to the achievements and triumphs of these two teams, who remarkably defied odds with skill and grace to reach the pinnacle of senior hockey supremacy on a global scale. And whereas both teams and their management serve as unparalleled benchmarks for the tenacity, ability, and altruism that all trail athletes, coaches, builders, and volunteers strive to demonstrate to this day. Now, therefore, we, Trail City Council, do hereby proclaim March 12th of each year as Trail Smoke Eaters World Championship Teams Day in the City of Trail. So the proclamation or the recommendation is that council proclaim March 12th of every year as Trail Smoke Eaters World Championship Teams Day in the City of Trail. Do I have someone to pass that recommendation? Councillor Santori. Do I have someone to second that recommendation? Councillor Jones. Would anyone like to speak to this? Councillor Santori, probably?
Yeah. Well, just that I reported to council some of the initiatives that we were trying to do behind the scenes to recognize it. And late last week, we got news from the Vancouver Canucks. They were extremely excited about our suggestion to wear the Trail Smoke Eater logo or the Trail Smoke Eater jerseys during their warm-up and then to do a bit of a show prior to the game or in between periods. They went to the National Hockey League. They have to go to them for final approval. And we ran into a glitch. Because of major sponsorships, unfortunately, the jerseys that the Trail Smoke Eaters, the juniors have, are not of the same brand, if you can believe this, as the NHL sponsor, who all the teams wear those jerseys, and I won't mention the companies. So unfortunately, they're unable to do it because one company is the Smoke Eater jersey and the other company is the major sponsor of the National Hockey League. So the NHL has to respect their contractual obligations with this major sponsor. However, we don't have all the information, but the Vancouver Canucks will be doing something to honor the World Championships. And we've also heard from other media sources that will be doing something to recognize their accomplishments in 39 and 61. It would have been great to see them in the Smoke Eater jerseys, but unfortunately, contractual obligations and wouldn't allow it. So anyways, it's great. And I think it's great that we've proclaimed this. We should have done it, I think, a long time ago. And it was a huge accomplishment then. And people would just want to keep this legacy alive. That's all. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Very nice to see.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, if any? Carried. Thank you. Under item number 4, bylaws, 4.1 zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2899 2021 for adoption. Ms. McIsaac, I'll pass that to you.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The zoning bylaw amendment bylaw number 2899 deals with the property at the north end of Goodwin Way, out above Canadian Tire and the car wash and Cafe Michael. Council had given first and second readings to the bylaw. It was submitted through the public hearing. For the most part, we received very positive commentary from the public about the potential development, multifamily housing development that would be proceeding there. We have just now received the approval of the Ministry of Transportation. So after giving it third reading back in February, we now have the Ministry of Transportation's approval. And so it is being recommended that council proceed with adoption of the zoning bylaw amendment bylaw number 2899.
So move.
Oh, I'll second.
Councillor Santori, Councillor Kashoni second. Any comments on this?
Just a question, Michelle. Was there already a subdivision plan done for that area?
Some years ago, I'd say back in about 2007, 2008, the current owner, Mr. Backelder, had done a bit of a lot layout for a subdivision. That didn't proceed through to fruition. He originally didn't have ownership of all 3 of the parcels that they have there now. And I think they at first ran into some difficulties of gaining road access. So had purchased the 3rd property to allow for adequate road grades. And then unfortunately, the development just did not proceed through the planning stages.
They have to redo a subdivision plan then?
Yes, this will, and this development does differ slightly from what was proposed previously. It has more multi family units, more townhouse type development. So it's responded to the changing needs, I would say, here locally. Back in 2007, there was more demand, I'd say, for single family or perhaps 2 family. And now we're seeing more and more demand for different housing forms. So newer townhouses, and this development is proposing to do that.
Great. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we've done, Ms. McIsaac finished 4.1, correct? And moving on to 4.2. Great, so 4.2 is the official community plan bylaw amendment bylaw 2900 2021 for adoption. There's a recommendation before you. Did you want to speak to this any further?
This is just the companion OCP change that's needed to allow the development we were just speaking of to occur, changing the land use designation from Juanita Junction Regional Commercial to multiple residential. And so now that the zoning bylaw has been adopted, it is in order for council to adopt the official community plan bylaw.
Very
So
good.
move.
Councillor Gadafoni Robinson, do I have someone to second? Councillor Dobie, thank you very much. Any questions on this one? And all in favor?
Aye.
Against, if any? Carried. Thank you. Now we're on to committee reports. Councillor Butler, you're first.
Your worship, nothing to report this evening.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dobie?
Thank you, Mayor Payson. I too have nothing to report.
Okay. Councillor Kashoni?
Thank you very much. At the board meeting on the 25th, we concluded with three major decisions on the revenues from the dam in Area A. The money can only be shared by legislation in a service where Area A is a participant. Consequently, it can be shared throughout the East End services, much like the $500,000 that was transferred in 2019, 2020, 21, and beyond to support the fire service. The East End voted unanimously in order to get these motions passed, and I was very pleased to see this because it shows that the East End is united in protecting its citizens from unreasonable taxation increases. I mentioned who moved and seconded because the RDKB no longer records the mover and seconder. And I didn't like that at all, but nevertheless, that's the way it is. Motion one, moved by me, seconded by Linda Worley, was to move $150,000 from the revenues from the dam into the transit budget. This $150,000 is to be transferred into the transit service in 2021 and beyond until such time that all the costs associated with the upgrades, purchases, and installations of all of the new bus shelters are complete. Further, it will continue until the new transit exchange is completed and paid for in Downtown Trail. The transit exchange will be in the order of $2 million and possibly more because we have passed a motion to have a washroom attached to the exchange. The East End, by agreement with BC Transit, would have to pay 20% of the $2 million, which will be at least $400,000. The City of Trail will save here approximately $160,000 because we pay about 40% of the total cost of the East End services. Further, the estimate to redo, purchase, and install all of the bus shelters across the whole East End is estimated to be in the neighborhood of $300,000 and now possibly more. The total savings, therefore, for the City of Trail on the $700,000 of total costs for the two projects will be in the neighborhood of $280,000 to $300,000. Motion number two by Steve Morissette and seconded by Mike Walsh will transfer $200,000 from the revenues from the dam into the Beaver Valley Rec Service. This will continue until their upgrades are complete, and this was supported because of the transfers noted above and the previous transfer of the $500,000 per year annually to support the fire service, which saves the city over $200,000 per year every year. Motion number three, moved by Ali Greaves, seconded by Andy Morrell from Rossland, and also supported unanimously by the East End, was to transfer $350,000 from the Administration 001 service reserves to cover the cost of the two items noted above in motions 1 and 2. Therefore, there will be no increase in the 001 taxes for 2021, and the reserve is approaching $5 million, and we from the East End have contributed 86.8% to the reserve. What it really means is that the reserve is there at that dollar amount because of all the transfers from the dam revenues that have been going directly into the Administration 001 account over the last 20 years. Finally, the East End in the next few months will be making decisions on exactly how much money we should be contributing to the administrative function. The issue here is that the boundary, which only contributes 13.2%, has been saving over $600,000 a year now for over 20 years. And now that our costs in the East End are increasing, we'll be looking for members of the East End want to ensure that our taxpayers are treated fairly. The numbers that we have there, just for your information, we did, the numbers were generated by CAO Anderson, and they're not my numbers. He generated the numbers, and it turned out that right now we're paying 1,690,415 out of the total of 1,900,000. So the boundary is only paying $300,000 a year, and there's no discretion at all. The fact that 86.8% of the reserve money actually was contributed by the East End, and that's what the East End is working on. We have contributed all that money over these years So 80, almost 90% of the whole reserve comes from the East End. And we don't mind sharing the money, or the East End doesn't mind sharing the money, but now their costs have escalated on a number of things. The second item would be that as I mentioned earlier, I think in the other meeting, that Area B now is going to be funding membership in our library. And I'm hoping that that continues, and I hope those people take advantage of that particular program. And the last thing I wanted to mention was that when we had been sharing information with Mr. Richard Dean from Tech, I was quite pleased when I did send him some information, because he asked me to keep him updated. I was really pleased that he thanked the City of Trail, and he thanked the East End Committee for their diligence in controlling the budgets and controlling the taxes over the last couple of years, but specifically in the last year or so, because he said they're having, as he phrased it, having to make difficult decisions on budgets there. And so he was very pleased, and he passed it on to the CAO of Tech there, and they were all pleased to find out that the city here is being very responsible in terms of trying to control the taxes as much as possible in the regional district area, which accounts for a huge amount of taxes for Tech Cominco. So that's my report. Thank you very much.
Did you have a question, Councillor Santori?
Yeah, Robert, with respect to the dam revenue and the reserves, and
Yes.
it's great that it's keeping our taxes down, but are you guys worried that sooner or later that well's gonna run dry? And,
Go ahead, sorry.
sooner or later it's gonna run dry or drier.
Mhm.
Are you guys fearful that there's gonna be a huge gap in terms of funding some of the services that it's being used to fund now, like fire services,
Well,
as an example?
yeah, I can add that. You see, part of the problem is we transferred last year $700,000 to the fire service.
Right.
$500,000, Sandy, for just general fire service, and $200,000 to pay for the additional the deputy fire chief. But even with those reserves being drawn down, we're still transferring over $1.3 million a year into that particular service. Plus, we're also contributing an additional $556,927 from the East End every year. So,
But what if they decide 1 year, well, we're not gonna draw any more money from the dam, then what?
well, then, then if that occurs, but that's always has been my fear.
Right.
What I'm trying to get across to council, and what I'm trying to get across in terms of this is, right now, the East End is committed to holding things together.
Okay,
If one of the East End were to, and I understand what you're saying, if one of the East End were to break and not vote, because it's only a 7-6 vote, then we would be in real trouble. No doubt about it. But there's a considerable amount of money going in. I mean, really, the boundary is only putting in $300,000 out of $2 million.
yeah, no, I get it, but as long as you guys are aware that.
But if I just to say one last thing, Ali Grieve, which is quite surprising, has raised an issue about the fire service. And I don't know if you remember, I talked about this
Yeah.
policy that was developed that was attaching a huge amounts of money to the service. And we did the calculation based upon the fire service within 5 years. If that policy is to be implemented, it would increase the cost of the fire service within 5 years, almost $900,000. And Ali had mentioned that she didn't think if it went up that much, and I'm not saying this on the line because she said it in a public meeting, if the fire service went up that much, there'd be a real difficulty in order to hold that service together.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Councillor Kashoni?
Mayor Payson, can I be excused? I've got to make some phone calls about that incident, the things that happened with my brother.
Of course. Yes, that's fine. Thank you for letting us know.
My condolences, Robert, on Rowley.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's sad.
Very sad.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll see you soon. Thank you. Counselor Gattafoni Robinson?
Yes, I just have one report. I attended the Ambassador Program training session, and I found it very, very interesting. We, as you all know, we have 7 girls, and Sarah Benson Lord was there, and she gave a wonderful presentation on the city of Trail and how we became the city that we are today. So I found it very, very interesting. And the 7 girls are obviously training, and hopefully they will have some kind of pageant in the near future in May. It depends on what COVID is all about. So I found it very, very interesting. And those are my reports.
Thank you. Any questions for Counselor Gattafoni Robinson? And none. Counselor Santori, go ahead.
Thank you. This evening in the GOC, we had 2 delegations before council. The first delegation was Rich Murphy and Craig Clare of the Trail Smoke Eaters. They came before council to request that we extend, that we keep the ice in the arena until the end of April. What they're attempting to do is to host some skills development camps, mostly minor hockey players under 7, under 12, under 15, as a means to try to generate some additional revenue to minimize the losses that they experienced this year with respect to COVID. In addition to that, they want to continue the training of the team as well. Now, council did approve to keep the ice open until the end of April, but they will be paying for the ice time for the skills development sessions that they'll be putting on based on the fees outlined in the fees bylaw. In the event that the interest is not there or they do not register enough players, but the Smoke Eaters decide they want to continue with their team practices, they will then also still pay according to the fee bylaw, the rate per hour to keep it open for the team itself. So they're hoping that they're quite confident there's enough interest out there to put on several skills development camps. The next was a presentation from Samantha Murphy from the Trail and District Public Library for the 4th quarter report, as well as further bringing council up to speed on some rebranding they're doing. The report was well thought out, very comprehensive, and I think most council will agree that they're shedding a whole different light on the library and are being extremely progressive and reaching out to the community. A lot of the things they're doing, if not all, are based on community input with the surveys that they put out and really touching the community and asking, what they want to see their library like in the future. And they've done a commendable job, and it's so great to see these type of reports come before council. So please make sure that you pass that on, Colleen, to the board and to the staff at the library. I think everybody will agree that they've done a commendable job there since the Riverfront Center was open. So it's awesome. Thank you.
Any questions? Are you done or you still?
No, I still got more.
Okay, great. Thank you. You just took a breath and paused.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Sorry for rambling.
No, it's all good.
The next item is the Butler Park Stadium lights and the safety netting. I won't do a recap of how we got to this point, but tonight council did approve a budget of $34,000 in order to get a Class A estimate, which will give us a much more accurate cost in terms of putting in the lights and the safety netting. And then council will become much more informed, and we will have more concise numbers whereby council can then discuss and make a decision moving forward. The next is Columbia ground squirrels at the cemetery in Haley Park. It's been a huge problem for years. It seems to be getting under control, but it's going to continue for another 3 years, and approval was given at $6,000 per year moving forward. Council approved the market, the farmer's market on a bi-weekly basis on Saturdays on the 12 and 1300 blocks of Cedar Avenue. Let's hope that those will be able to get carried out and that COVID will be somewhat behind us. And there were 2 requests for reserve parking on 1816 and 2000 Topping Street. Council agreed to allow that and permit it because they have absolutely no parking at this time, with the condition that if the occupancy was to change in the future, that those signs will then be removed and if necessary, reassessed by council at that time. And we received a report on the utility billing collection summary. And the only other thing to report, oh, by the way, I'm going to meet with Gracie Bobbitt, one of the ambassador candidates, on Wednesday. She's doing a presentation on Silver City Days, and I'm supposed to fill her in from day one. So I'll do my best. So we're meeting at City Hall at 3 o'clock, and I'll be talking Silver City Days with Gracie for about an hour or so. That concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Councillor Santori? No, seeing none. Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Mayor Payson. I'm okay. I'm unmuted. I just have a couple of quick Zoom meetings to report on, and these meetings I did not attend on behalf of City Council, but I attended because I had the information forwarded to me, and I just wanted to let people know that this is these webinars are going on, and especially the community members, so that if they wanted to get information on them, it's there for them. The first one I attended was the Columbia River Treaty virtual town hall meeting, where over 200 people were online from Canada and the United States. People from across the Columbia Basin and beyond joined in, and we were able to ask questions. Actually, it was very, very interesting. And the Canadian negotiators were there, the Indigenous nations were there, local governments from all different levels. And of course, our MLA, Katrina Conroy, spoke as the provincial minister responsible for the Columbia Basin Trust, the Columbia River Treaty, and the Columbia Power Corporation. We have an opportunity to make some changes right now moving forward with the negotiations. So during the current efforts to modernize the Columbia River Treaty, it was important that all these groups got together. And it was, to me, I probably wouldn't have had a chance to attend one of these meetings. So it was a great opportunity to be a part of it and listen and learn more about the Columbia River Treaty and what's happening with the negotiations, because we do see it on the news and in the paper, and it's just a great way to get more information about it. And if anybody is interested in learning more about it, it's still available on YouTube. And you just go to the Columbia River Treaty virtual town hall meeting for February 24th. And my next meeting was I had an opportunity to sit in on the interior health presentation on the interior health surgical renewal during COVID. And they also gave a short update on the COVID situation. Again, lots of attendees. It was opened up again for public questions, and it was kind of nice to sit back and see what questions people had, and to actually, the board members to actually have an opportunity to answer those questions live. I thought it was very educational. And again, if anybody wanted to go and see the video, it's still online, and you just go to the Interior Health Board meeting and under YouTube, and it should come up for you. Lots of great information. And like I said, you know, it's an opportunity to attend these meetings when you wouldn't have had a chance normally. And that is pretty much my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Jones? No, quick report for me. So over the last 2 weeks, we had a safety task force meeting. We're continuing to work on outreach to downtown businesses and looking at partnerships to identify areas of concern, which would help to drive the mandate of the task force in the next initiative. I also met with the Air Quality Working Group and Trail Health and Environment Committee, and discussions continue on sulfur dioxide messaging to the community. And we're also working on recruitment initiatives to engage community members to sit at the Trail Health and Environment Committee or Air Quality Working Group tables. Our soil remediation program and outreach is going to be starting soon with the thaw of the ground. So we're looking forward to having a successful year again with both of those committees. And with respect to today, Monday, March 8th, is International Women's Day. International Women's Day provides an important moment to showcase commitment to women's equality, launch new initiatives and actions, celebrate women's achievements, raise awareness, and highlight gender parity gains. International Women's Day is celebrated and supported locally or globally by industry, governments, education institutions, community groups, professional associations, women's networks, charities, and nonprofit bodies, the media, and more. So to everyone out there, thank you for celebrating women's achievements, raising awareness against bias, and taking action for equality on this today, International Women's Day. Does anyone have any questions for me on my brief report tonight? Councillor Dobie, go ahead.
Okay, I nothing to do with your report, Mayor Payson.
Okay.
It's just the story that went into the National Post. I just wondered if you had any other comments on that. I haven't had a chance to really read it thoroughly, but I just sort of felt there was a little bias against us. I just wondered if you wanted to comment on that at all.
So I believe that was a National Observer article that
Yes.
was done on Trail and the Trail Health and Environment Committee. What can I say? That had been in the works since well before Christmas. It was supposed to be published before Christmas, and then it just ended up being delayed with certain things. It's a very complex topic with a lot of subject matter, and I think it's difficult to write an article and get these salient points across for what the Trail Health and Environment Committee is trying to achieve. That said, the article is done. It is not the first article that has ever been written about trail, painting it in a slightly negative light, but we persevere. The Trail Health and Environment Committee's commitment to remediate the city, to engage community members, to engage with industry, to engage with government officials is unwavering. And so for me, I read it and I'm moving on. I don't know what else to say.
Thank you.
No.
Wasn't trying to put you on the spot, just trying to get a message out there that we are working hard, and I felt, I don't know, I felt a little bit injured and hurt by it.
Fair. Point well taken. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for me? Okay, so number 6 is consent agenda. So we have 6.1, which is report on invoices paid for municipal services February 1st to 28th, 2021. And the recommendation is that the item on the consent agenda be received for information.
So move.
Councillor Santori, do I have someone to second that? Councillor Butler, thank you very much. Any questions or concerns about this report? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, if any? Carried, thank you. Any new business from the floor? Councillor Dobie, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to put a motion on the floor, please, that we invite BC Housing to a future council meeting, just so that we all have the opportunity to question them on certain things in our community in terms of the housing project that they're proposing. So we can maybe get an update and also have an answer to ask them, to ask some questions.
Okay, that is a land matter, so it would probably happen in closed, just so that you're aware.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, but thank you.
Do I have someone to second?
I'll
Councillor
second.
Jones?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, any other comments on this? All in favor? Against, if any? Carried. Okay, 8, any other new business? Okay, 8, department reports. So 2 building department reports, RDKB Building Department of January 2021 and Bylaw Enforcement Department of February 2021. The recommendation is that these reports be received for information.
Motion to receive and
Person.
circulated.
Councillor Santori, do I have someone to second that? Councillor Adobe, thank you very much. Any questions or comments on these reports?
No.
Councillor Jones, and you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. You know what? I just had a question about the locate mobile home at 8150 Old Juanita Road. What is that, the one where, anyway, I'll just ask for some clarification on that.
So that was a renewal permit. There is a storage compound at the corner of Old Juanita Road. The property is immediately adjacent to the school district transit
Oh, yeah. Okay.
location. So they have a modular home that's on site there being utilized as a temporary office space. And so that was a renewal permit for that location.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If any? Carried. And adjournment, I have someone to motion. Adjournment. Councillor Adobe, thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Have a nice,
everyone.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Everybody.
I